Hi everyone. My name is Alex, and there we go. To transition from beautiful music from Carrie to the horrible 80s, which I love a lot. You'll be seeing lots more horrible puns around 80s songs. I thought that I would tell you a little bit about how we work at Tinker, and also interpreting the make the digital real, and also make the real digital. And I'm going to take that at face value. I'm going to tell you about some things that I think are interesting for people probably in your industry to know about, and also ways to work with us potentially, but at least 3 things to make the digital real and 3 things to make the real digital. So I'm the co-founder of a company called Tinker, and for lack of a elevator pitch for what we do, because I've yet to find one after 3 years, we kind of try to work in 3 areas, one of which is trying to rethink how online interactions and the things, the cell phones that we have, the communities we belong to, all the apps that we have, etc., connect into the real world, how all that data can become physical, and also how we discover and learn more about all these all these technologies that we have. Can we actually get behind them and get them to do things that we'd want them to do, and get them to do creative things? So those are kind of the areas that we're involved in. Why bother? I think that right now is a really interesting time. Who in this room is using Twitter right now? 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, don't be shy.
At this time.
Yeah, okay, right. So about nearly half the room. So, we are enabled with these things. I've signed into Foursquare. I'm not mayor of this building yet, but I'm sure with time I'll become. Digital for me means being online, means all those online interactions that we have. It doesn't stop anywhere, it kind of continues on. It's all the connections that we form, it's all the relationships that we form. Technology is everywhere, but having an integrated experience of technology that links up to beautiful things, that makes us react in different ways, that amuses us, is very difficult still. It's all, there's all a puzzle out there of things that we can do. And some of my colleagues and also peers who work in East London in the Silicon Roundabout like to talk about post-digital design, and a lot of people are thinking about what it means to connect all these online relationships and all these online ways to perform into the real world, back into old school infrastructures, and back into fixing media. I'll skip on those things. I think those are kind of obvious. So, 1, 2, 3. Firstly, how to turn things from real to digital. A really simple way of doing that is using sensors. And you and I, all know what that means, kind of, and that's because of 2 things that came out on the market: the iPhone and the Wii. Because the iPhone allowed us all to understand what an accelerometer, well, actually the Wii, what an accelerometer was, what it meant to move something and then have something happen on screen. Before that, you talked about this technology and that potential, and people were like, I don't know, I don't quite understand it. Multi-touch, the ability to do multi-touch, is entirely because of the iPhone. The ability to think like, yeah, I can control something, like pinching something on a screen, is not really used before. So ways in which we're trying to counter that, or trying to get people to understand what sensors mean in a different way, has been through both research and client work. In this case, it's a bit of research. So we developed this piece called Hop. Hop is this really weird piece, I guess, which is part hopscotch, so regular hopscotch that you play, and part lit up 3D version of it. And when you hop on the hopscotch, the corresponding squares light up. So they would light up. In this case, this was kind of lying down. In the case of Salone, so in Milan Furniture Fair, we kind of put it up. So Daniel's on the 3rd square, and that one's lit up. First thing that everybody did when they saw this piece was look for the camera. And they're kind of going, where is it? Because they have this expectation around what you can use. In this case, it was a sonar sensor, so Nothing that you would be able to necessarily understand, but that worked perfectly well. And so we kind of broke expectations for people, and people were literally looking at this and looking at people perform and thinking, I don't understand, how's this working? And you actually really want that reaction. You want people to kind of go, ooh, this is not an obvious one. This is not something I've seen before. Another way to connect the real to the digital is through open hardware. So everybody knows about open source software now, and right now we're in the world where open source hardware is starting to emerge. If you read Wired UK, you kind of, you probably have heard of stuff around that. We work with a lot of open hardware, but we also have clients who are starting to work with open hardware. So Nokia came to us, and they had developed an open source phone. And actually, Hyper, who are an ad agency in town here, came to us and said, well, Nokia want to show off this phone, but we're not quite sure how to do that. Could you come up with an idea? Or could you come up with a context in which that phone would become exciting to people? Because the whole point about having open hardware is you can actually do something with it, right? So we decided, again, because I love the 80s, we decided we were going to connect up that phone to 1980s products in order to highlight functionalities of the phone and also get those products to perform in ways they hadn't before. So this, if you don't recognize it, is a speak and spell. And a speak and spell was, you push the buttons, it spells out the alphabet. And what we did was connect it up to the Nokia phone so that you would spell out a message and then send that as a text message instead. We also kind of, looked around at other products. I looked at the Rolodex, and the nice thing about the Rolodex in terms of keeping up with contacts is that the interaction of rolling a Rolodex is far more interesting than going through lists and lists and lists. And so you would turn the Rolodex and your contact page would just move by itself. This, I wish I had a video of this, but I'll just explain. Also, a nice functionality of that phone is that it transmits FM. So what that means is that you go up to the phone, you text it your favorite artist, it looks up on Last.fm, which is an online music service, the most popular song from that artist and the album cover, and then sends it back to the phone. And so the phone full screen shows the album cover of that artist and sends the signal to the old FM radio. So the FM radio plays that song. But there's no connection. This is wireless. There's no connection between that phone and the radio. But these are just what you can do, and this is part of what you can do with those new technologies. Third thing to connect the real to the digital, RFID. RFID is a clever way of saying your Oyster card. At the moment, the nicest thing about the Oyster card, regardless of the privacy and encrypted data which no one can touch and no one's interested in touching, your Oyster card is a unique idea because it's a unique number. And so we decided to exploit that, and this was part of a research project for us, I guess. So what you would do is you would put your Oyster card on a reader, and it would generate a unique snowflake for you. So very, very simple way of engaging people because the experience is completely personalized. You see the last person's snowflake, you put your Oyster card in, it generates a new snowflake, and whenever you come back to that, it will always just generate that one. So it becomes your, your instantiation in that project. So